Hello, and welcome to another Well-Being Wednesday show. It is my great pleasure and honor to share my conversation hour this week with a friend of mine from Extremist Being Awesome, which is a productivity group that you may have remembered on week one. We interviewed Star O'Hara about that productivity group. And Bretigne Shaffer is one of my friends that I've met through Extremist Being Awesome. And she is doing something really unique and very needed in the world right now. My husband and I were just recently talking about how important it is to start building parallel solutions. And Brittany has a whole group just devoted to that. So welcome, Brittany, and thank you
Thank
for being
you.
here.
Thanks for having me.
Do you want to tell everyone about, well, let's start with well-being since that's what this show is about. What is your idea of well-being?
That's such a huge question. That's a really interesting question because just to back up a little bit, we moved from California to Kentucky last year, and all of the things that I've sort of counted on for a feeling of well-being were really shaken up. So, being uprooted and transplanted and, all that stuff, it takes away a lot of things that you've come to rely on. And so I've had to kind of really think a lot about what are the things that I really need just for myself, just to feel good about life and about, where things are going and what I can do. Um, and so there are a whole lot of things I could talk about, but one of the things that has really, it's not like I didn't know this before, but it's like been up in my face, is that I think we all need to have the sense that what we do matters and
Yeah.
that we can have some impact. And I don't mean like changing the world or doing something newsworthy or big and glamorous or anything like that, but just even creating a happy home environment, creating a beautiful life for yourself, having the little things that are like just within your community, having a community that you can come to and rejuvenate each other and all that stuff. I think part of what the lockdowns and everything, I think part of the greatest source of damage was in inflicting a sense of powerlessness on people. And I feel like we really need to feel like we have some agency in the world and that we can do things that make a difference. And again, I don't mean like in the Hollywood sense of, oh, I've changed the world. But even in small ways, just we need to feel like what we do matters. And so I kind of got this part of it a while ago. I sort of realized that, the whole complaining about things and analyzing and explaining why everything is screwed up, it's good to a point, it's useful to a point, but really where the power is and where we need to be focusing our attention, I feel like now, is creating something better. And the ground is ripe for that because so much is falling apart. Even before COVID, so much was in trouble. And now it's like, the hospitals are a disaster. Education is a disaster. I mean, it's clown world level now. So now is the time, if we can't go in and create alternatives and build systems that actually function and that serve people, if we can't do that now, then we're screwed. I mean, it's now is the time, and we can do it, and people are doing it. So yeah, so my group is really for people who get that perspective and who are really committed to doing something to bring about parallel society, to create real solutions in the world, in the realms of education, healthcare, money, food independence, justice, everything. So all the things that are falling apart in the real world, in the big world, it's really about focusing on, well, what are the solutions? What are the things we can build and the things that people are building? And let's focus on that instead of, complaining or feeling powerless or feeling like, wow, we're victims here. And this is, look how powerful the the whole COVID empire was and is, and there's nothing we can do. There's a lot we can do. So that's what my group is about.
I can relate. We just went through a move too, so I can totally relate to the sense of like powerlessness that happened during COVID, after COVID, that's led to, for our family, financial instability. My husband lost his job because of COVID policies. That was probably our best paying, most lucrative, supportive career that he's had to date. And it was just like to walk away from that because of COVID policies was really devastating for us. And then it took a hit on our credit, which then led us to having a hard time finding places to live. And it's just like this snowball that just keeps, in a lot of ways, getting worse. And so having a restored sense of purpose, a restored sense of things can start going back up the hill again instead of just like snowballing down in a negative way, um and start to like step out of that, that's probably for me, like doing this and sharing different ways people can restore their sense of balance for others, to help others in that. And like you said, it's not like huge. Whatever I'm doing here is just, here's some resources,
Mhm.
And so I'm so glad that you're doing this, because Aaron and I were just talking recently, like, what if the S hits the F, and how things are going to go, like if we don't have some kind of alternative or backup plan in place. And knowing that there are already people out there doing some of this stuff is really helpful. And it's soothing, um, to myself big time. And I'm
Yeah.
sure it will be for others as well to know. And then, so people that are already doing this are in your group and they're sharing what they're doing, so that like we can start to find out what those things are, I presume. Tell me
Yeah,
how the group
yeah.
works.
So the nuts and bolts of it is it's so the group itself, it's a mix. It's some of our members, actually a lot of our members have been involved in some kind of um I don't know, creative production or creative solutions for a while. Some of them are not. Some of them are newcomers. They're just like, well, I'm not doing anything right now, but I want to be, or I get that this is important. I get that this is where our energy needs to be. Um, and what we do is we invite guest speakers to come and meet with us once a month. And those guest speakers are people who are out in the world and they're creating something. So, for example, we've had Susan Sweeten with the Freedom Travel Alliance. I don't know if you know who she is, but she's amazing. And what they've done is amazing. They are basically they're working to create parallel solutions in travel. So they have they do these charter flights. They book these charter flights and from point A to point B, and it's like, okay, whoever wants to join this, we're not going through the regular airport rigmarole. It's a private jet. We go from here to here. And during the worst days of the COVID nonsense, they were helping people to cross borders, when to find legal ways, where when the government is saying, no, you can't come in without a COVID test or without a vaccine. In some cases, they found ways. They have this, like, I guess, team of lawyers looking at all the minutia of the laws and the illegal ordinances and all that stuff that had been set up, and they found ways to get people across borders, to get people from either from a terrible jurisdiction like Canada or New Zealand or something, or back home, if they'd been overseas when all this stuff came down, to get them back to their homes without having to go through the medical nonsense. So they have been absolutely heroic, and I think you don't hear much about them. But they're like one of my favorite organizations, Freedom Travel Alliance. And so she joined us to talk about what they do, how they do it, ins and outs of how they're very careful and making sure that they're not getting themselves in trouble. And it was great, and it was really inspiring. It's just when you talk with someone who's out in the world actually doing this stuff, it's like, it's just very liberating. You just get this sense of, wow, I can do something too. Then I can do something like that. We've had people talking about PMAs. So that's a big theme in the group, is private membership associations, because it's the PMA model really is about liberating businesses from state regulation and licensing and all that stuff, and the requirement to sort of, as we learned during COVID, to do whatever the state tells you. What we found out was, if you're a business operating in a city and the city comes in and says, okay, you need to, I don't know, have all your customers have to strip naked and dance on the tables, or we're going to shut you down. You got to do it because they have the power to shut you down, because you're licensed through them. And
Mhm.
so the PMA model is a way to, you're not, under PMA, you're not serving the public, you're serving members. And so licensing doesn't apply. A lot of like the health and safety regulations don't apply. So it's a way to exit that whole system of control. So we've had some people on talking about that. We're about to have another call with some big PMA people who've been doing this for a long time, about really the nuts and bolts of how to know, because a lot of people are setting up PMAs now, and it's a big deal in our sort of circles. And but there are ways you can screw yourself up. And so we're going to have a call with some people who really have been doing this for a long time, know a lot of the pitfalls, and can also sort of point us towards education resources and things. So it's really going to be like a nuts and bolts call of, here's how you can do that without getting yourself in trouble. Um, we've had people talking about, well, we're about to have someone talking about food independence. We had Carrie McDonald talking about education entrepreneurship. She's also amazing, is just has been a big advocate for homeschooling and unschooling. And now she's really doing a great job of covering all these education entrepreneurs who have just flooded in to fill this void that's been left by the, really broken education system. And we had Edith Ubuntu Chan. I don't know if you know who she is. She is pretty amazing too. She's very much about raising our consciousness, and about the place that we're operating from. So like, look, and she does seminars and she's written some books about this, but her focus is she also talks about community, and she's involved in a little village that they've set up where she is in Northern California. But what we talked about was a lot of looking at ourselves and like, where are you operating from? Are you operating out of fear? Are you operating out of anger? Are you operating out of joy? Or an impulse to be creative? Looking at all these things and recognizing that you can shift where you're operating out of, and how empowering that is. And she does a lot of work on that. So she was amazing. So yeah, we've had some really incredible guests, and we've got more coming. And then we also meet, so that's like once a month we have a guest expert. And then we also meet like about every other week to talk amongst ourselves. And that's fun too, because it's fun, and it's educational, because we do have people who are actively doing stuff, working on things. We have one member who's very involved in startup cities, and she's actually living in a startup city now. And so she talks a lot about how that works and what the things are. There's a lot going on in that world right now. There's just a lot of stuff happening. And that's exciting to hear about. And other people are, working on medical freedom issues and things like that. So it's also just, I think, kind of nice to just connect with people who are on the same page, and just, get this feeling of camaraderie, and like, yeah, this is us, we're hanging out, we're doing it. So yeah, it's been good. It's been good.
Um, so the way to join, so this is a private, you were talking about PMAs. This is a PMA about PMAs a little bit too. So that's kind of cool. How do people join?
So it's actually not a PMA. It's
Okay.
just But it is private though. And it's a little bit complicated. So I have a Substack. I have a Substack that goes out to the public called On the
On the
Banks.
banks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have another Substack that's private that you have to write to me and I'll add you. And that's just because and that one's free. It's just a private Substack
It's a
group.
secret. It's a secret.
The secrets. I'm telling my secrets Substack group. And it's the reason it's private is I just want to keep it to people who are very consciously wanting to focus their energies on building private solutions. It's not about complaining. It's not about analyzing world events. It's none of that. It's really just, that's what this is about. So that's the private group is called Building Parallel Solutions. And the way to join that is just email me, Bretigne@gmail.com, and it's Bretigne. I know it's weird, Bretigne@gmail.com. So that's how to get into the private Substack. There's the paid version of that private Substack is my membership group. So in the private Substack, it's really just like information and posts and things. The paid version is where you then get the calls, the calls with the experts and the calls with each other. And for that one, it's the same thing. You email me, tell me you want to join, but it's not open for new members all the time. It's been closed for a while, and I'm opening it up this coming week, April 3rd through 7th. And so that's when, if you write to me and say, hey, I want to join the paid group, I can sign you up and you can get into that. And I will, so this is all part of this past, like, not quite year, but like 6 or 8 months. I've been just sort of developing it and working out the kinks. What I did was a founding member launch back in July. And those members have sort of helped me to figure out what works, what doesn't work. We originally had a MeWe group that was associated with it, and then kind of realized, well, that's not really helpful, that people aren't really using it, and it's like one extra layer of complexity. So that went by the wayside, and we've just really kind of narrowed it down to the things that are useful and that people want. And so that's where we are now. I'll be doing a bigger launch a few months out into the future. I'm not sure when exactly that'll be. But this is just like a little sort of a soft second founding member launch, so that people, because I've had some people contact me and say, can I join? And so I want to give them a chance to so I want to give them a chance to get in before I go and do the big launch, which will be a few months out, really.
Okay. What's the investment?
So it's $15 a month.
Oh, that's so inexpensive.
I think so.
Yeah.
You can also do the yearly. I think yearly is $180 for the year.
Okay.
It's just the Substack default price. And yeah, it's I think it's very reasonable.
Oh, extremely. That's great. Who is this group? Who would you say, because you have made it private and exclusive, and you mentioned like there's people that just want to complain about like the way things are right now and stuff like that, but who else would you say this group is not for? Like, so we could just weed and filter those people
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, I would say it's also not for, if your focus is on analysis, and for many years, I mean, I was a journalist for many years, so that was my focus, and I still do it from time to time, but I'm just very aware that that's not the best use of my time right now. That's it's very important, and I am thrilled. I mean, there are people like El Gato Malo and all these absolute heroes, Jessica Rose, real heroes on Substack, who have been battling to just get the truth out there, and I am so grateful for them, partly just because they're heroic and what they're doing is wonderful, but also it takes the pressure. I don't feel like I have to do any of that. I don't feel like I have to like dig in and figure out all the evil that's going on, because there's this whole team of people who are doing a fantastic job of that. So this is probably not for them, and that's nothing against them. Again, they are absolute heroes, and what they're doing is so important. But this is not, that's where they're putting their energy. And this is a different place to put a different kind of energy. It's really just about looking for, what can we build? How can we build it? What are the nuts and bolts? How do we not fix the system? Because I guess it helps if you kind of recognize that a lot of these systemic problems are because the system is completely broken. We're not going to fix public education. We're not going to fix the hospitals the way they are. We're not going to fix the current healthcare system because it's broken, and it's broken because of the design. It's broken because of the foundations that it was built on. And so we need to build new foundations. So it helps if you recognize that. But that said, it's not a place where everyone has to agree with each other about approaches or even about what the problem is. I mean, you don't necessarily have to agree with me about that or see it that way. Really, the central thing uniting us is we recognize the need to create solutions. So it's not really for people who are focused on the problems, even in a very productive and important way. That's not what this group is. What other? I guess if your belief is that there's nothing we can do, then this is not the place for you. Because
well, there's not a lot of well-being wrapped into that mindset anyway. I
yeah.
to another
And this is
guest
not
about the Eeyores of society or
right.
whatever.
And I
Oh,
love Eeyore,
bother.
yeah, it's not, I would say it's not a self-help group. It's not, while I think our meetings are inspiring and I always come away from them with this like renewed sense of, yeah, we can do it. It's not a place where we're going to fix anyone's mentality or fix your outlook. If you're already in a place where you just don't believe there's any hope, this isn't gonna necessarily, I mean, it might give you hope, it might, but that's not the purpose. Our purpose is not to sort of to rah cheerlead people and get them to a point where they believe there's something important to be done. You kind of have to already recognize that. You have to already see for yourself that there is something to do.
Yeah, it sounds like you're talking about this is really about getting your toes in the water and getting your feet wet and whatever. So
Yeah.
you have founding members. You've been doing this since July.
We opened up in July.
So
Yeah.
that's almost a year, a little less than, yeah. And
It's moving fast, isn't it?
my question then is, as far as the members that are in and with you so far, do you have any like what would I call them, testimonials? I mean, you don't have to give me their names or anything, but do you have any like stories of people in the group that are already starting to like do new things or do things in a different way since they've
That's a
joined?
great question, and I actually need to reach out to them for testimonials. I know from talking that people are moving forward on their things, but I can't. That's actually on my like list of things to do. Is I need to reach out to people and ask them what specifically, like, how has the group helped you? I can see people like moving forward in what they're doing,
Yeah.
but I don't want to take the credit for that when they haven't explicitly said that to me. So
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, that's
You're so fair.
well, I mean, the truth is most of these people were already working on stuff to begin with. So we've got some pretty cool people in the group.
Okay. So what are some cool things that members are doing so that like that they're sharing with other members, I presume, in the group?
Yeah, so one person, and I want to be careful not to give too many like
Yes.
identifying details.
Anonymous.
Yeah, so one person has a group where she actually helps to support medical freedom activists, and by support it's a lot of encouragement, a lot of like recognizing that the last few years have been brutal, and even before that, if you've been a medical freedom activist for a long time, it has not been it's been kind of a lonely place for a lot of people,
Yes.
and a brutal place, and a place where you're standing up, going to demonstrations and getting knocked down time and time again. So she provides like encouragement and support, but also nuts and bolts, I think similar to sort of to what you do, like nuts and bolts tools for how you can regain your own wellness and how you can keep yourself in a happy place, and in a place where you're not feeling beaten down, where you're actually
Hmm.
feeling like you're moving forward, you're um part of it, I think, is a little bit tuning out all of the, not letting the news cycle dominate your psyche, and
Yes.
reclaiming your own space, reclaiming your own life. So she has a group that is dedicated to that. We have another member whose family is homesteading, and they're new to it. So that's kind of interesting, hearing about all the things that they had that they
It's exciting, I'm sure.
yeah, it is exciting. It is exciting. And then I mentioned one of our members who's involved in the startup cities, and that's really exciting to hear about, because she's also sort of in touch with organizations that talk about these things and that share information, and there it's just that's really encouraging. What's going on in that world is very encouraging. We have someone else who's setting up a, what would I call this, like a networking platform for people to find medical professionals who will respect their rights to informed consent and all of, the things that we would like.
Bodily autonomy.
Yeah, the sort of the bare bones foundation of what you'd expect from a doctor, not to
Yeah.
violate your bodily autonomy.
Hmm.
So that's exciting. He's setting that up. um I'm leaving some things out. Oh, one of our members has a podcast, um, where she talks about like um, neurological issues and solutions. Um, I know I'm leaving some other people out, but those are sort of the ones that come to the forefront. Education, somebody's doing something well, we've got I think if several members actually are homeschoolers, and so that's a topic of, you know commonality, where we're kind of comparing notes, and I think we're all, or many of us, are prepping in some way, or we're trying to be self-sufficient in some way. One of my next guests is actually has a food buying co-op club, I guess is the term, and so she's going to be talking about, how that works and how you can set that up, how anyone can really set this up, and how important it is. um, and so I think a lot of us are doing things just within our own lives that are that we have in
Productive.
common, things like trying to be food independent, raising our kids in this crazy world, things like that. So it's not all big projects, out in the world. Some of it is just, how are you dealing with, the craziness in the schools, or the chemical spill, a few hundred miles from us, or, what's going to happen to our food supply now, and are they going to outlaw, backyard chickens and that kind of thing. So a lot of it is also comparing notes on those kinds of things.
Yeah. How to strategies for what's next.
Yeah, yeah.
It's really funny because when you think of the word progressive and how it's used in our society today, and then you put progressive on what you guys are doing, it makes more sense. Like, I almost feel like the word progressive, I always say regressive, because it's just like that's not it.
Yeah,
But it sounds
yeah,
like you're really working on progress together. And I'm all about finding tribe. I had a Find Your Tribe workshop last year, and I'm all about getting together with those people, because otherwise you start to feel really isolated, you start to feel alone. And so finding other people that are really working on progress, not just talking about it, not just theorizing about it, because there's a lot of people that do that. And we can
yeah,
find those kind of people all day long, and we can all spin our wheels together, but it just doesn't feel as meaningful. It to me, it just doesn't bring the sense of well-being into my life and a sense of purpose into my life if I'm not working towards something like
Yeah.
you know, feeling like there's a future for my children and my grandchildren, and that's a big part of it, I think. So I'm really excited to join personally
Yay.
your
Yeah.
group because it's like the same mindset of the people that I'm working with and the things that I want to be doing, and maybe inspiring me to do some more things or even just to take small steps. Sometimes it's just like I can't even see how do I get there from here. And so it sounds like when you're talking about setting up food groups and all that, this is a great value, and for the price, it's like I don't know why anybody would question it, but
Yeah, the other thing,
I get it. There are some people this is just not in their
if that's not where
wheelhouse.
your head is, then it's probably not the place for you. The other thing I wanted to say is that in a lot of our sort of just casual group chats, what will often happen is, one person will be working on, so let's say starting a new sort of homeschooling program or something, and somebody else will be like, oh, I've been looking for just that. There's a lot of like common sharing of information when we get together. It's like we find that we have these common themes or these common needs and interests, and there's a lot of like, oh, that's exactly what I was looking for, or, oh, that would really help me with my thing, and putting people in touch with other people, and that kind of thing, which I find it's hard to organize that kind of thing. That's the kind of sort of synergy that happens when
Like
you just,
magic.
yeah. And I think it happens when you get people together who have enough of a shared focus, um, that these commonalities are just much more prevalent. And so you throw these people together on this, a call for an hour, and it's like, oh, but I was doing that. And I find the same thing like with conferences. If you go to a conference and it's a focused enough topic, you'll find that you're meeting people who are working, even if they're not working on what you're working on, it's like they know someone who knows someone, or they have this book they just read, or there's something where it's like, oh yeah, that's super useful for me. And it's that kind of synergy, that kind of exchange of information and ideas and things that I think is a really big plus.
Yeah, for sure. I think I don't I think it's invaluable because you don't know that's the X factor or the part of the equation that ends up being the real bonus of the whole. It's like you're joining, you're going to get these calls from these specific people, but you don't even know all the things you're going to get when you throw a bunch of people together that are super
Right, right.
creative, super focused on being productive, and who are really working together towards getting things done, or even working on their own to get things done and figuring out what didn't work. And that could be just like
That's huge too.
everybody's
It's like,
failures is like gold. Like people didn't even know.
yeah. Yeah, no, it is, because then I don't have to do that. Or if I screwed something up, I can share that with people and say, hey, don't do it this way, because
Yeah.
that really,
There's
yeah,
so much gold in that. And so if you have a bunch of fallible people together and they're all working towards stuff, you don't if that's the thing with unproductive people, I think, is that if you're not trying, you're not failing. And so you're not like having that learning experience to share with other people or with yourself to like figure out the right way to do it.
yeah.
And, there's all kinds of success coaches out there, but I really like the failure coaches because it's just like I'm teaching from all the wrong experience. My favorite quote in the whole world, I say it all the time, is Otto von Bismarck said, "The fool learns from his own mistakes, but the wise man learns from the mistakes of others." And so I bring it up. I have it in the front and the back of my book. And it's just like one of those things that it's like, here we are. If you really want to get smart and get to work on your life, you need to join Brittany's group. And
You said it so much better than I could.
learn from a bunch of fools.
Yeah, yeah. Seriously, I mean, it's that sharing of information, I think, is really critical. you learning from successes and failures, and also just, some of us are just like feeling our way along the path. Like, I'll give you an example, like with the private membership associations. There's so much, it's, I don't want to say it's a new pathway, because there are some people who've been doing it for decades, and some people who really know what they're doing, but there's this kind of gold rush mentality right now into PMAs, I think. And it's easy to get yourself into trouble. It's easy to set it up wrong, to do things wrong, to not understand exactly what you need to do. And so that's an area where we're just kind of feeling around for like, well, I have this question and nobody seems able to answer it. Oh, well, I talked to this guy and he said da da da, and oh, there's this learning program you can do, these videos you can watch here, there's this guy here. And so it's, what's helpful is to talk with people who are kind of on the same path you're on, and as you said, have made their mistakes, have, like, maybe, well, I did this video series and it turned out it was useless, so don't waste your time.
Uh-huh.
um that kind of thing. It's like that kind of information where it's like, there's, especially now when there's so much information out there, it's really just this like fire hose of all this stuff to weed
Distill.
through.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so to have other people who are also doing that, like who are trying to learn how to set up a PMA, and can say, okay, I tried this and this and this. This is, in my opinion, this was the best one. This has the most useful information. Or I set one up and you know what, I screwed up. I did it this way and I shouldn't have. So don't do that. Yeah, it is. It's invaluable in that, to be able to save time like that. As Otto von Bismarck says, if you go through the process of making all of your own mistakes, you're going to spend so much time.
Yeah.
Whereas when you can get together with a bunch of other people who are making their mistakes
Yeah.
and figuring things out, it's invaluable. It saves you so much time and pain and money, if you're making mistakes that cost you money too.
Yeah, they
um
always do.
it's just, yeah, I mean,
Because time is money.
yeah,
Yeah.
that part of it. In fact, I should plug that more on. I haven't really written about that much, but I feel like I should really plug that more, because I think that's one of the strongest features of the group, is really that kind of magic that happens when people get together and start sharing information. Yeah.
Yeah. It's big, big savings. $15 a month. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. And how is your move going? Can we talk about how things have
You can see
worked
the
out?
boxes back here. Um, it's been it's been wild. I mean, I've moved around as an adult a lot. Before I was married, I moved from country to country very easily. Like, oh, I'm gonna live in Hong Kong for a few years. Oh, I'm gonna go live in Japan now. Yeah, it just, when you're single and you can pack up most of your belongings into a few suitcases and like store your books somewhere, um, it's not it in my mind, moving was just not such a big deal. And we've done it a couple times as a family too. This was huge. This was like, oh my, this was, first of all, moving from a house that I loved, that we'd been in for like 11 years, put so much love into that house. And we're selling it now. And it breaks my heart to sell that house. But also living in a town where my mom was, and my mom is still there. My sister is still there. We fortunately were able to spend 11 years there when my dad was still alive, and with my mom, and they got to know their grandkids, and that was like one of the best decisions of my life, was being there and being able to be there with them. But to have to leave them, um that was hard. What I didn't realize was, and then coming to a place where I'd never even visited Lexington. I'd never visited Kentucky before. So we came because my sister lives here. And what I hadn't realized was, moving to a place where all of your roots are you're uprooted, and all the little things that you've come to count on are suddenly gone. So
Yeah.
like, you know, okay, I know which plumber to call. I know who to call if there's a problem with the electricity. I know, if I need help packing or unpacking, I've got a bunch of people I can call on. All these little things that you don't think of that much, to have all that gone.
Your favorite Mexican food restaurant,
Right.
your how to get
Right.
to the grocery store. When you move like that and you're like, it's like you're on an alien planet now
Yeah.
and you're
And I've
starting
been
over.
on alien planets. I've been to alien cultures where it's like it's an adventure. It's fun. It's like I remember when going to Taiwan, and I would just go to the grocery store and just like wander around like, oh, this is so, look at the stuff they have. This is so, and it was really like this exploratory, like, this is so exciting. This is so much fun to look at all the different stuff. Here, it's like, it's not that different. It's different enough, but it's
It
not that different that it's like,
is.
and I've got a family to take care of too. So
Yeah,
it's
so
just
that's the thing is like you don't have time to just wander around and look at stuff
right,
and be enchanted. You
right.
actually have to find food for your family. And like we moved into a neighborhood where it's just a military town. And my husband would say they don't know S about F. But the big problem is that none of the grocery stores have what we consider to be food. There's like no organic anything anywhere around us. And so we're having to drive further out of the way. Yeah. It does feel like it's you don't have the time to be part of like a new society, and you still there's too many things to do to like get your family moved in, unpacked, get food on the table every night, make sure, whatever you're doing with homeschooling, there just it doesn't seem to be it's different than when you're single and you're moving around. It's just so much
Right.
different.
There's not time to just go out and have fun. There's not time to like, oh, I think I'll spend the day riding the buses around town to get to know it. Or, in this case, here driving around town just to get a feel for the place. You don't have that luxury as
Right.
a parent. You
You
don't
can't
get to
unpack later. You can't go,
right.
oh,
Well,
just
you
unpack
can.
later.
I'm unpacking later, but it's um
But
yeah,
the
there's
essentials, the
yeah,
essentials
there's a
have
lot
to,
more there's
the
a
kitchen and the things that, to cook and to prepare food and whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
So
medical stuff. We have, our daughter has special needs, so we had kind of already figured out where we were going to go, like for her neurologist and everything. But even so, it's like, well, where do we go if there's an emergency? What's the best ER? What doctor will take my kids, given that they don't have the jabs, which here is a little bit less of a problem than it is in California. But even so, it's that kind of insanity is everywhere, and you've got to navigate
yeah.
all these things. So yeah, so this has been wild. We're mostly unpacked, actually. This is like, my office is sort of the worst of it, because I've just sort of
So it's
been dumping stuff here, and I am gonna get it fixed up. But it's not the top of my list right now. I've got all this other stuff to do. So yeah.
yeah, I know how it goes. And it makes a difference though. What, people undervalue. You mentioned that you like moved away and you had a lot of family. You have your sister now in Kentucky, but where you were,
Yeah, and that's been great. Yeah.
you had a
Yeah.
lot more family where you were. So people don't realize how much you get from having family nearby when you have kids, especially with young kids, and how
Yeah.
much help having that around you. And so, when you move into a new place, you have to figure out who you have to start building, your
All
people
those
around you,
groups, all those groups have to
making,
be built up. Yeah.
yeah, and finding people that can help with childcare that live near where you are. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's always like
That
the
was
hardest.
that really has taken, that was the biggest thing for us, because we do really need childcare. Um, and it really, because we need very sort of specific kinds of childcare and specific experience and skills, it really took us about a year to find, um, other than family members who have pitched in, but like to find, like reliable, ongoing. It took us a lot longer than I expected it to. So yeah, um yeah, it was kind of tougher than I expected.
It is. Even using services like CareDoc. We had a gal
Mhm.
from care.com that was helping us for a while. And right around we moved just about 15 minutes up the road, so it wasn't too far in 2020. And that was a big move, but the caregiver that we had from care.com, I called all of her references. It's kind of a big production. You have to go through like tons of people, and then you find the right one. And then after we moved, she was like, I'm still available if you live there. It's not out of my area. And then she sent us a thing like, just to let you know, I've been vaccinated, da, da, da. And I'm like, oh,
Mm.
like, and I don't know if you guys are doing that or what, and blah, and I was just like, I don't really want to like get into that. Like, I don't want to know your private medical
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I don't think we share the same values, and I want you watching my kids anymore.
That's just it. You've got to find some, even if you're not going to explicitly have that conversation, you want it's tough. It's like this little dance you have to do. I mean, I didn't, when I was on care.com, I didn't full 100% rule out. I said in my mind, okay, well, if there's somebody who looks great and they've got the I am vaccinated thing on their profile there, I didn't say, well, I won't even consider them, but my first searches were always just the people who weren't saying that. So
Yeah,
they might still be vaccinated, but at least they're not, cheerleading for it, and they're not. And that wasn't because I cared whether they were vaccinated or not. It was more, I don't want somebody with that mentality in my
influence.
home with my kids.
Why don't we put our kids in public schools for the
Right,
same reason? We
right,
want the
right.
influences to share our values and
Yeah,
whatnot.
yeah.
We want the word progressive to mean progressive.
Yeah, I mean, that's, yeah, words don't mean what they don't mean what you think they mean
Yeah.
all the time.
So it's hard, when you have kids that are learning and they're developing vocabulary, and then just to have somebody using words in a weird way that just doesn't even make any sense talking to them when you're not around. And to me, that's just not helpful at all. That's like counterproductive
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
So yeah, it's fascinating. I've had a big experience moving here, and definitely learning from my mistakes to make better moves in the
Oh,
future
yeah.
that I
Oh,
can
yeah.
share with other people at another
Yeah.
time. But
Yeah.
I think that part of being in this like wonky stage is starting to reach out to more of feeling a little bit of instability. And I don't think it's just us from moving. I think a lot of people feel unstable right now just because of what happened in the world. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
having groups like yours is just, again, invaluable. It's like we need those resources. We need those people to help us like figure out the way forward, or to tell
Yeah.
us what mistakes they made, and so that we.
Well, and also just to know that people are doing it. I mean, I think there's something really empowering about seeing someone go. I mean, just looking at like Freedom Travel Alliance and just seeing, oh my God, they just did that. They just did it. Um, you know, it's very empowering to actually not just be talking and theorizing about it, but to see someone go out in the world and create something that just is outside the system, that kind of breaks the system a little bit, that just stands there on its own and just does its own thing regardless of what the rest of the world is doing, regardless of all this nonsense, just does it. That's so empowering. That's such a, even just to witness that, even if you never do anything on your own, just to see that someone is out there doing that is like just uplifting.
Thank you for your service, right?
Yeah, yeah.
The real thank you for your service.
Right, right. Genuine way. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Brittany, uh, joining your group is as simple as just Brittany@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You just have to spell it right, which my parents made tricky. It's Bretigne at gmail.com. Just email me. Let me know if you just want to join the free Substack, or if you actually want to join the membership groups. They're two separate things. I mean, they're linked, but it's two different things. And yeah, and I can add you.
And then you just send out a link to me when I do that. Is that what happens? Like you send a link and then everything's automated, or how does it work with the
Pretty
link?
automated. It's what I do is I add you to the list, and then you'll automatically get like a welcome email, and then you're getting the emails from then on, and the invites. And then when we have our group meetings, the people who are in the membership group get an email alert about the next meeting, and they'll get like the link and the time to join and all that.
And then the payment is just automatically month to month, whatever. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Substack handles that.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Perfect. Okay. I
Yeah, yeah,
didn't
yeah. It's easy. It's yeah. I the more automated, the better. Because as you can see, I don't have time for that.
there are some advantages to our modern world, and I like a lot of this stuff. So, and
Yes.
part of it being that, if you're looking for tribe, if you're looking for a community of people, you don't have to like go door to door and knock on your neighbor's door to find the right people that are like, when 99% of them wore masks in the grocery store, so we already know that they're not. um this is a way to find those people and to be with them in
It,
calls.
yeah, in a lot of ways, I mean, as much as we complain about technology, in a lot of ways, there are big advantages. I remember in like the 80s and 90s, in the 70s too. I was little then, but um, my parents would go to libertarian supper clubs, and that's how that's there was no internet. There were these meetups where it was like usually the same group of people each time, and sometimes a newcomer would come and it'd be like, oh look, Bob's here, we're gonna invite, welcome Bob, and let's talk about anarchy. And that's how people got to know each other. It was like word of mouth. Sometimes it was, people were famous because they had books published or something, but it was all this in person. You were limited to in person, basically. And
Mhm.
now we can reach so many more people. My
And that means a bigger skill set too. So like the people
Yeah,
in your little area
yeah.
might only have this many skills that show up or
But when you
whatever
can
every
reach
week.
across the whole world, you've got more of a viable community. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's so
It's
cool. It's so cool. Well, thank you for doing this. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thanks. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm excited to have you join.
And thank you for being on my show as well. And hopefully other people that are watching this that are in that mindset will see the
Yeah,
value
yep,
and email Bretigne@gmail.com.
yes.
It's been another wonderful Well-Being Wednesday. I have had a great time talking to Bretigne and getting to know her a little better through this chat and finding out more about parallel solutions for our modern times. And so I hope you guys join her. And if you want to, also, you can share this Substack with other people that or if you found this on YouTube or Odyssey, share this video with other people that that are also looking for parallel solutions to join Bretigne. That would be great. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Bretigne.
Yeah,
And
thanks for having me.
yeah, and everyone have a wonderful week. Bye.